Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Odinic School of Mysteries. My name is Bear. Thanks for joining me today. I'm glad that you're here. I have actually been thinking about this. I don't know if you call it an episode or not. Whatever it is that we do here. There we go. I've actually been thinking about this for a while. And it's been, I don't know what you'd call it, mulling over in my head. We spend a lot of time here talking about philosophy. The heavy-duty, esoteric, where you really dig down deep into the nitty-gritty, where you take like a fine scalpel and you're just slicing off ideas and just, it's just really heavy mind stuff, and that stuff is good. That kind of thing is good. It's good to do that. One of the chief things that mystery schools do, and in the old times we'd call them the cults. Cult usually meant something different than it does now. Today, when you say that I'm in a cult, you'd say that I'm a mind-controlled slave of some cult leader, The old-fashioned cults, though, weren't like that. They were children, you would say, of their gods. You would pick a specific god and you'd become a cult of that god. And that god became your faith. And so you might say that even though I like and respect all the gods and goddesses of the heathen persuasion, I am, for all intents and purposes, an Odinist. Odin is my god. At least as far as gods go. Odin has been good to me. And that is really what I wanted to talk about today. I had a teacher once who told me that all ritual is moot if the reason behind it is lost in the repetition. I know I always repeat myself when I want to make a point, and I'm going to do that again here. all ritual is moot. If the reason behind the reason why you do it is lost in the repetition. And this same thing goes with the mysteries. That all mystery is moot. All the philosophy is moot. All the reasons we do what we do is moot if the repetition has murdered the original reason for doing it. So what I want to talk about today isn't heavy-duty philosophy. And you know, I do like philosophy, and this is part of the reasons why I joined a mystery school to begin with. I want to just spend some time, just you and me, in my father's house with the wood stove and a good drink, and just talk about faith. I mentioned, for some of you who have watched my last episode, that one of the things that I was really afraid of is that many of the people who've come over to, I guess some people would call it Asatru, heathenism. There's some more versions of that out there. That they've come over here because they don't like Christianity. And they think this is a better club and a cooler club. They do it because of those reasons, not because they actually have any real heart connection to the very gods that make up this belief system. And, you know, we might say that it is true that truth operates on many forms, and that you could say that the forms and functions of the gods and the way that they operate in the world is the same patterns that play out in our mind and our bodies and our egos, and the way and the interplay of our various mental forces. And you can get really deep into the real philosophy of it. But when you get too swallowed up by the philosophy, you get too bogged down in you've loaded up your cart, let's say. You're pulling a cart behind you, and you've loaded it up with so many stones that you wonder whether or not the cart is actually helping at some point. It just gets too heavy and you can't pull it. So you might have an amazing cart, but what good is a cart that you can't pull? There's too much going on, but there's nothing to relate to anymore. And so on a very basic level, what we're dealing with is not trying to recreate a religion in the same way that we would say that Christianity, for example, is a religion. We're not trying to live and breathe dogma, because people want to do that. They want to reinvent Christianity by putting a heathen face on it, by saying that if you don't believe that the myths as written are literally true, then you're not a real heathen. You're not a real Odinist or what have you. It's my belief, and many of you could agree or disagree as you wish, but it is my belief that in the end, when all is said and done, it's about a personal relationship with the divine. And that's it. The philosophy is an important part of it, but it's not in some ways, it's not even the most important part, even though sometimes I make it sound like it is. What we're seeking is truth. And in some ways, truth is the highest religion there ever was. It is really the only true religion there ever was. And so philosophy, the mysteries, are seeking to discover the realities of things. But if the seekings of realities of things fail to let you enjoy the reason why we even do it in the first place, you're throwing yourself into unbalance. The philosophy becomes the God rather than the God itself. It becomes an idol rather than the God itself. It's a little bit like a mechanic who focuses so much on the metallurgy of the screws and bolts that he forgets that he just loves driving cars. And that happens. It's not about the joy of driving on a mountain road anymore. It's lists of details that don't really have any real heart connection to it. That sacred feminine part of the equation that we talk so much about. That's the heart part. And here's that sacred feminine. It's that thing that calls you home. So, it's like the phrase that home is where the heart is. No heart, no home. No hearth, no home. It's the place where the magic happens. So, the first step, really, in any of these journeys, is to remember why we've taken the journey to begin with. It's about relationship with the divine, of whichever God or gods, plural, that you choose, that you feel a connection with. Be it Thor, or Odin, or Tyr, Freya, or Diana, or Zeus, or Ishtar, Inanna, or Dumuzi. The glorious Shamash, as that's what Gilgamesh calls him. Glorious Shamash. There was a wise phrase. I said a wise phrase. There's an idea, and people will be tempted to take this too literally and not in the spirit of which it's meant. I hope you don't fall into this temptation. But the idea is you could tell an animal from a divine being because an animal doesn't look and see the stars. An animal doesn't look up to the sky and wonder. That beating heart of the universe, that thing that is so much bigger than us, greater than us, full of so much mystery and power, that your mouth is agape and you just feel an overwhelming sense of longing when you encounter it. You know when you have, I want to be careful. Again, people are going to take this more literally than it's meant to be taken. And again, I want to say be careful not to fall into that trap. But a good indication that you're doing this for the right reasons is that you have that same ache and longing for home and mystery and whatever that heartbeat is when you think of the gods on their thrones, going about their business, as you do when you look up at the stars and you're filled with wonder. We do what we do for the love of the gods, for the love of truth. Not because we feel as though we have to have some kind of religious faith in our lives to hang our identities on, which is so often the case with people. People make their identities about something external. We see this a lot. You know, people who make their entire identity around being a mom, or being a soldier, or loving some sports team, or drinking coffee, or some external thing. And then when that thing goes away, they're devastated. The gods aren't this external thing out there somewhere. It's, to quote Jesus, where he said that the kingdom of God is within you. If you're looking for the kingdom of the gods out there someplace else, you're looking in the wrong place. The inscription on the wall at the Oracle of Delphi, they think they attribute the quote to Pitha, even though they're not really sure who wrote it. But inscribed on the wall is the quote, "Know thyself and you'll know the universe and the gods." It's that feeling of home and longing inside. This is where the gods are. This is the way we connect to them. So when we approach ritual, when you pour yourself a drink, and you hold up your glass and you say, Odin, this is for you, my friend. Thank you for my blessings. Thank you that I have a roof over my head and that I have something good to drink and that I have food that I can eat and that my house is warm and my kids are fed. Because it is just as easy, if not easier, for me not to have these things. In fact, it is the harder path for me to have them. We're not doing this because it's just what pagans do. We're not doing this just because this is what religious people do. We're doing this because we're genuinely thankful to a God that we genuinely love. It's not external from us. It's in here. So if you carve a statue out of birch wood and you put one eye on it, with a big beard and a brimmed hat, you're not a part of a club. You're not doing it because that's what pagans do and that's a ritual or a symbol or whatever. You do it because the physical act and the work it takes to actually make something beautiful like that is an act of reverence and worship. It's giving a gift of thankfulness to something that has gone out of its way to make your life better. The tendency is always to make things that are simple overly complex, because it makes us sound smarter